matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
Welcome to Woken Magic, your alternative podcast for alternative minds. I'm Jim.
I'm Marika.
And a lot has happened. A lot dealing with this fucking cartoon character we call our president.
Right, since we have been gone for a little bit, so much has transpired.
Alright, let's talk about Omarosa for a moment. So it seems like the entire time she was in the office with him, she was recording him.
Apparently from like day one, everything. She was... She walked in like, oh, my bag is empty for all the receipts I'm going to be collecting along my way every day as I come and work at the White House. Because 200 recordings, there's some videos she might have gotten. I think she had us all fooled, I think.
Do you think she went into it knowing that things are going to implode eventually? If it's like, let me just set myself up?
I think that she knew, I read this somewhere, and this I do think is true. I think that she knew as a black woman, if she were to say anything, she would have to have confirmation. She would have to have proof. Because when she came out and said, oh, there was this conference call about Trump using the N-word that we had in our committee. Yeah. And the girl who was there was like Katrina Pearson or whatever, was like, no, that ever happened. Then Omarosa dropped the tape of it happening. So see, yeah. Even when she had to do that. So on that level, she was just protecting herself from day one, and I'm not mad at that.
Also, you really think about it, if you actually put the thought into it, she has known Trump for a long period of time.
Right.
So she knew the kind of people he surrounds himself with, and she kind of already knows what will happen in the future. So like you said, she had to set up things to protect herself, but then also that experience with him probably made her think, you know, I do need to protect myself.
I mean, clearly, because she like recorded everything, it seems, and I read this, people are like, yes, she can come back to the cookout, but she only can have a hot dog with like a plain hot dog or somebody else's potato salad. Like, so I thought that was pretty funny, because through her being there, and from her originally, it wasn't like she changed her mind later through. It seemed like she was like, I know who he is. I know there's some funky bullshit around this, and I'm going to do this just to CYA or CMA or what have you. But
I also believe that she knows for a fact that her credibility is very much tarnished over time. It's been tarnished over time.
Yeah. And
she knows it'll be easy to discredit her. So the whole time, she, like you said, came with the receipts.
She did, and I mean, it's very interesting. The time is just, I think, something that we had talked about just kind of like where we are in the time of Trump, where we are and how things are going in our society with the trials going on, with Trump's actions and everything. And I think people are in a situation where things are, I think for more people now, things are different. People are not, it's not as if, oh, well, he's just crazy, or he's uncouth, or he's this. It's more like, oh, he's doing things that are dramatically changing our country, our society, and the world. And we don't know what to do about it because we've never been in this situation. But I think people are starting to wake up, especially what happened with the John Brennan security clearance.
Oh, yeah, how he's just taking away security clearances from people he don't like because they said mean things about him. Oh, right, fucking tear falling down my eye right now. He was mean to me, so I took away security clearance.
The thing that I'm like, we can see this happening. This is not being hidden. There's a lot of hidden things going on. Let me tell you, we're finding those things out. But a lot of stuff that Trump does is quite in the open, and people need to act accordingly. They're acting as if like some of these Republicans, did you see? Oh, well, he did say some bad things, so he felt threatened. And I'm like, how are y'all justifying this?
Like, is this your fucking president?
Thank you.
Is this your president?
This your president.
At this point where, with his feelings get hurt, he takes away people's security clearance. when people don't want him to show up at their fucking like their things they're putting together, or they want to show up at the White House, he cancels. You know, it's like I break up. You don't break up with me. I break up with you.
Yeah, it's so.
He throws fits. You know what? He put almost every day this week. He's put out tweets attacking people, looking like a fucking child.
Right, and I would dismiss it as pathetic if it weren't so dangerous. I mean, even just taking what his response to Omarosa, and if you look at it, I kind of liken this to true crime. I've been watching some true crime. Stay tuned for Woken Magic True Crime. More information later.
We'll talk about that a little later.
But think about it this way: when you have, let's say, multiple people murdered, unfortunately, but murdered, and you might have one particular victim with more attention, more violence.
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, clearly that might have been the motive. That where all the attention was focused. So look at Trump and his tweets, because that's his MO, right?
Yeah.
That's how he operates. Who was he going after so much? Who had multiple attacks? Omarosa.
Yeah.
And not just attacks, but attacking her intelligence, calling her a dog, all of these things where people were, even white people were like, wait a minute, you're gone too far. That's, and so you have to wonder, okay, what is it about Omarosa that's drawing his attention? What does she know? What does he know she know?
What if a black woman took down the president of the United States of America?
Holla. Better been on Scandal.
Yeah, kind of like that. Even though we kind of cast away this particular one for a little while.
Oh, man.
Kind of threw her to the wolves. Or she joined the wolves, actually, to be honest, for a little while. But, yeah, it's crazy. Like, the way he's been personally attacking her. He called her a dog. Insulted her intelligence. I think a lot of people think the whole dog comment was a racial thing, and it can be taken that way as you want. I kind of personally believe he really, really, really wanted to call her a bitch, and he just didn't want to. Do
you think they revised it? So like that was his original.
I think he deleted it a couple of times.
Let's revise. Let's edit this. We got to take this out. Can't use that word. Okay, that's the better word choice for you.
So I should never let this low life fucking nigga. Oh well, let me delete this for a moment. Low life bitch. Oh, let me delete this for a moment. Low life dog. That's what I think.
Because when you look at Omarosa, however you look at her, I do not see dog when I look at her. She's actually a very attractive woman. She's tall, carries herself well, always like and even if you look at the old Apprentice taste from when she first got into public attention till now, I think she's improved. So they even call her a dog to me makes no sense. It's almost like, why did you purposely choose that word? Because I don't see a dog when I look at Omarosa. But if you see a dog, Mr. Trump, then clearly something's wrong with your point of view.
Here's the thing that really fucks with me. And I hate to say that I don't believe it's a racial thing of calling her a dog, but I need to address this real quick. He's such a racist and a misogynist that I don't know. I don't fucking know which way he was leaning with that. And that's kind of fucked up.
You're right. I mean, I was speechless for a second because I was thinking, both, all of the above, right?
Yeah,
but
because he has called, he has attacked black people before, black athletes.
He goes after their intelligence. There's like a common theme when he attacks people, certain people, as mostly people of color, he has to attack their intelligence. Like, he feels they need to tell these people who are far smarter than him and have more degrees than him, definitely not from Trump University, right?
And that they're beneath him in intelligence. And he tells it to his dumbass base, who have a record. We really look at his Twitter feed. You can scroll through a record of his lies, how he contradicts himself constantly. And they're like, no, we believe it. There are times they contradict. I know you don't want to be talking about his supporters because you don't want to get them any kind of...
I don't like to give them any more attention than necessary.
I know. I'll move on, but I do want to say this. There are times that Trump says something that's bullshit, complete, absolute lie. And you know it's a lie. And his base spread a completely different lie than what he's saying. And I'm like, that means that his base sees what he's saying to justify something he's done. And they say, well, that's fucking stupid. And no one's going to believe that. And they come up with their own fucking lie. Even if it contradicts what he's saying, they prefer it because he's at a point where he's so fucking incompetent that even his base has to cover for him.
Then you have to wonder, okay, what is his role? If we know that he's not necessarily the brains behind the operation, then...
He has a good brain. Don't forget about that.
Oh, whatever. Who
All the
are the
best
brains
words.
behind the operation? Like, clearly he's serving more as a figurehead for a whole like ideology that is white supremacist ideology, misogynist, ideology, homophobic ideology. So these people who have these similar hates are finding, a leader in him, but it's quite clear that it's not just him. And so I think that's why it's important for people to look at the action and look at how it's supposed to be in a democracy that we have grown up in this country being taught that we have, and to see it being tested and to see the people who are elected to uphold the democracy, to maintain our democracy, either complicitly letting this stuff happen, or being a part of it, or just ignoring it, or just thinking as if it's like, oh, well, this is just an electoral thing, it'll change in 2 years. We have a whole history in this world that shows that that's not the case. Yeah.
My thing about it is, how can you be a politician, a Republican, go on a talk show and just talk like an asshole over the fucking host to not let him get a word in, just drain the clock, basically, because you can't have a competent conversation about your fucking president, the person you're defending. Like, why are they still doing this? Why are they still defending him? I don't get it, because I feel like you have Mike Pence. Now, even though I don't like Mike Pence, and it's for multiple reasons, clearly you don't like him as well, but when you really think about it, he's at least somewhat competent, or he's publicly competent at least, right?
Well, he basically was caught lying, so I definitely don't.
The Mike Pence head shake. He just laughs and just shakes his head no when he gets.
I forgot about that thing. I was talking about when he lied about like all that stuff, him being part of the transition, which I'm sure we will find out as Mueller's investigation continues. But I think I wish people could see that it's not just, oh, Trump supporters are so dumb, they're just going along with him. It's like, no, there's are people who agree with the ideology. There are white supremacists living in America in 2018.
Yes.
There are sexists living in America in 2018. These people are here. Stop acting as if, oh, they just don't know.
Yeah.
It's a choice, because if it's don't know, you're like, oh, well, let me educate. Let me be in the New York Times and write a glowing article on the front page about this neo-Nazi that lives with his mother in the basement. Like that's when you think as if, oh, they don't know, they need to be educated. Versus, no, they know what they're doing and need to be treated as such. And I think that's where people are seeing the divide and conflict that's happening. But if you see it the wrong way, as if, oh, these people are just so ignorant, then it's not going to change, because they're going to sit there and put a burning cross on your ignorant lawn because they're so ignorant. That's how ignorant they are.
Yeah, I don't believe they're
so
stupid.
That's my take on it.
My approach to it lately, I think ever since like he started separating children from their families, ever since around that time, my approach for politics has been basically isolated and not connected to it. Like, I don't do the whole team thing as some people do. That's like, Democrats versus Republicans, the left versus right. I don't think any of that shit matters, to be honest. It really comes down to is decency in this country and doing the right thing and improving this country. But I think ever since that moment of the separated children, there's been like, his base has been very much exposed as to not being stupid, like you're saying, and how they're able to come up with lies that are different from what he's saying, but able to spread all over the internet, able to spread that message because they're not stupid. They're complacent with it. They're compliant with it, basically.
Or actively engaged and supportive of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It comes down to that. And like you said, I don't want to just say they're fucking dumb. They're clearly dumb Trump supporters out there.
But and that's not the majority of them. That's not the majority. That's absolutely not. There are people. I remember I was working at a school. I'm no longer at that school, so there. But there was talk after the 2016 election, because we have our teachers a minority with very few whites who work there, and there was all these so and so voted for Trump and stuff, and it was like a whisper. So there was all these whispers over, oh, it was Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so voted for Trump, and you'd give them the side because you never knew, because they could have very well, because they could have said, oh, well, the economy or this or that. And these are college-educated people who would still vote for him. As we've seen, 50% of white women voted for Trump. I mean, or
I thought it was
50% are college.
60%. I thought,
and
I
they're
could be
college educated. I don't have the stats, but we know that it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
so,
more white women than it should have been. Probably only shorter than the amount of white women that he sexually assaulted.
we're here all week, folks. But I think people need to look at it that way. I mean, I'm really offended when I see like the New York Times or someone else like this expose, this not an expose, because that would actually be truth telling. Like these narrative articles, these really glowing pieces on these Nazis and stuff, and how do we save the Nazis? How do you change the hate?
Yeah.
If that's where we go from this, how do we change the hate? Then it's not focused on the people who don't hire you because your name looks ethnic, or the people who don't rent to you because you're black or Hispanic. All of those things in which that ideology is ingrained into our society and our laws. All of that has to be checked. Yeah. I guess, I mean, it's like, I feel like we have a limited amount of resources. Where do we want to place them? I'm not saying that people don't have stories. I'm not saying people can't change. Great if you do. That should be supported. But that's still not, that's not the most important story in these times. Yeah. Right? That's not the most important story. I want more stories of Heather Heyer. You know, in Charlottesville. The anniversary of Charlottesville was just this past week, within this past week or so, for the past few days, really.
He made a tweet about it, you know, a half-hearted tweet that he probably didn't even write.
And that was the point. If there was never a point before where you're like, nah, I can't fuck with Trump, it should have been Charlottesville when he said there were good people on both sides.
Oh, well.
Do you need to find it? Is that what, are you going to?
No, I put it on my phone because I have a whole list of moments that people should just jumped off of the Trump train.
No, but I don't want to get into all of them.
A whole list.
I'm not getting into all of them, but if there were at least one, if you needed one, that would have been it. Because that shows how his point of view is completely antithesis to who I am as a human being. Yeah. And for that reason, I don't care if the people who voted for him are struggling because the plant closed. The plant closed in a lot of places. They don't become Nazis. So save me with all that.
It's all about like basically keeping the balance of being superior, even if, because the whole thing is the worst thing you could tell someone who has always viewed themselves as superior. Well, at least I'm not like such and such, insert whatever that is. Is to tell them that there's nothing special about them. They're just like such and such.
Can I tell you a story? Because I can't remember if I told this on. I'm sure someone will tell us if it was repeated. But when I was younger, I lived in townhomes and they were adjacent. So you were connected to, you had a wall that connected you to the next townhome, but you had like a patio space and garage space. It's still connected like with a wall. But it was pretty decent size. Yeah. And so my mom is like doing laundry in our restroom and she overhears a conversation with the new people who moved in next door, white people. And she hears the little girl say to the dad, well, I'm so glad we're white, Daddy. And my mom's like, what? And the dad is like saying some stuff, continuing on the lines of, I guess, why white is great and black people, whatever. And this was in the 90s. Yeah. It was in the 90s in the fourth largest city in the country, multicultural neighborhood. That stuff was still out there. So the fact that we even thought that it's sometime new, and we need to profile these people because it's so new and unheard of. No, it's been there the whole time. You've been ignoring it. It's been there. We've been talking about it. You've been ignoring it, and now you got to deal with it.
Like for me personally, I've done a lot of research into Nazism and like basically, you know, the Klan and stuff like that. But those neo-Nazis, like I've looked into it. Those groups, those hate groups that take in the youth and like form these groups and shit. And it's always the same thing. Some young guy who's a fuck up in his family, who's not going to amount to anything, gets in trouble with the law, is basically a criminal or so, has nothing, doesn't have any money, is brought in by someone who tells them, you're worth something, you're special, you're white, and that makes you more, you know, superior to all these other people. It's everyone else's fault that you're in the situation you're in. And they join these groups. They're like, yeah, it's the blacks causing crime, despite me having a fucking record. You know, it's the blacks on doing their drugs, despite them selling drugs. Because some of these neo-Nazi groups do deal with drugs. They do peddle that shit.
Like that meth and stuff.
Yeah, and different. Yeah,
and I'm sure other drugs, but I'm sure meth is up in there too.
There are people in like these like rural areas addicted to like fucking like opioids and shit, and spending all their money on that, living in poverty, saying, well, at least I'm not a black person out there living off crack in the hood, in the ghetto. And I'm like, it's the same fucking thing. There's no difference. Like, you're lower class, basically, I guess middle to lower class white, and that doesn't make you any better than middle to lower class black.
So let's be critical thinkers on that, and let's ask ourselves, well, how and why do they even think like that? How do we even get that way? Where white people of, we'll say, lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and black people who live down the street from them, or down, the town over, very similar, just one, town over, what have you, in some places. Like, why do those people who literally have so much in common see themselves as different? Where did it come from? Let's go back to how we even got into this country, where we have 2 different, or 3, 4, 5 different races of people interacting with each other. Going back to, like, the founding of our country, where you had enslaved Africans, you had poor white people. They did not own the land, right?
Yeah.
You already had the upper class of white people, European people, I'll call them. Who were landowners. They're the ones who were educated. They were the ones who had all the privilege. And then you have your enslaved Africans, your Native Americans, your indigenous people, who they want to try and control. And they're like, how do we, and then you have, like, these white people, the Irish, if you will, because I know they were coming over, these immigrants, right? Yeah. These immigrants. And you have to maintain control of that, because if the enslaved Africans and the poor white people and these indigenous First Nations, if they realize, oh, y'all have much more in common, y'all all hate me. Yeah. Y'all hate me. So if I make you hate them, and you hate him, and you hate them, then hey, I'm good, and I've been good for 200 plus years.
Yeah, exactly. Man, we live in a weird time where remember the time that we used to live in where when you were a kid, they'll be like, shh, white folks are watching.
I don't know. I'm just,
that was a time.
SMH. That's all I have for you right now.
That was a time when you were told by your grandma. When you were doing something out in like,
you're in public?
You're in public.
Okay, never mind. Yes,
like
at the store, at mom's job, something like that, yes.
Now we're like, who cares? and it's like, I don't think, like, I want to clarify for our white listeners that we're not referring to every single white person in the world, but there is a certain section of racist people that we're gonna call out. Mm-hmm. We don't fucking hate white people. We hate
white supremacy.
We hate white supremacy.
If you're anybody, whatever race, if you're a black person promoting white supremacy, I ain't got time for you.
Yeah, white supremacy is not just a white thing.
Candace Owens, we see you. We see you, girl.
Yeah. Straight called her out.
And there's others.
There's a list. Yeah, but we also don't like black people who exploit black anger and black struggle and black pain. I just want to clarify that as well. We don't like that. People who capitalize off of it and share these false narratives. Like Spike
Lee.
I personally believe that Spike Lee is just not a great director.
Let me tell you the NYPD would disagree with you, because they paid his foundation, six figures to work on a public relations campaign for the New York Police Department. So I don't know, maybe I'm being a little shady right now.
Wow.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
I do want to see that new movie, though.
I want to see a new movie.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. I personally think that's an apology for what was it, Chirac and Old Boy? Those 2 movies. You basically just like.
Now we can't have we should have a whole nother discussion on Spike Lee's movies. Now that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah, because the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Because I want to clarify to those Spike Lee fans out there who are like, what are you talking about? He's our Quentin Tarantino. Oh. Quentin Tarantino's not that great either. Oh. I'm fucking dropping bombs on you guys. Quentin Tarantino.
You said he's our Quentin Tarantino, and that just made me LOL for real. Oh man, no. Spike Lee has directed great films. Spike Lee has directed films, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll move on. I will say one more thing about him. I think the times have changed that Spike Lee hasn't, and that's why his film making skills have not been able to adjust to making big budget or bigger budget movies as much. The real is real, the fake is exposed. They're pretty there's some really good black directors out there.
Absolutely.
Doing some really good things.
Absolutely.
Spike Lee's name is just not in that group anymore, not in that hat. All right, moving on from that. That's way off subject.
Let's reel it back in. We went. We're back.
So basically, he tried to throw a parade for himself, if you remember that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And it was a big pity party he was trying to play with the military. Of like the collusion pity party of like all everyone
conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
I like this. I don't know if you guys
Pity
watch
party.
MSNBC. This is a side, but we will come back to this parade. And there's this lawyer who was a Watergate lawyer, and she's like, I'm tired. She kept correcting people and say it's conspiracy, not collusion. Collusion is not a crime. So if Trump is out there saying collusion, well, he's right. He's not talking about a crime. Conspiracy is the crime. And then she kept saying it, interjecting it. And now she's like, I really wish you guys would just say conspiracy because, and I was like, oh, that's where we are. So it's conspiracy.
Well, he does actually set the tone of how we talk about him at times, like the way he tweets out certain language to make us repeat that language.
You're right.
Because right now he's not really being investigated for collusion. I don't think he's really being investigated for conspiracy as much as he's been investigated for obstruction of justice.
Exactly, obstruction.
But as which, like you talk to his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Obstruction is not a crime. It depends on who's doing it, I guess.
Wow.
He makes up shit as he goes.
Yes, he did.
So if you really look at it, he tried to put this big parade together for himself to show off the strength of the military that's going to cost the tax dollars, like what, 92 million tax dollars? Or billion.
22. I thought it was 22 million.
Or something.
But it wasn't going to be the government. It was going to be like Washington, D.C. that was going to have to do it. So a city. Like the D.C. was going to have to put it. And I remember seeing, how he said...
I thought it was 92. I could be wrong.
There's a 2 in there. We can definitely...
It's big. It's long...
Basically millions of dollars for something that is not needed.
Yeah.
And how he said... The people, the government of DC or whatever, the government, whatever, said we can't do this. And the mayor is like, I'm that person who said we can't do this. She was like, yes, I did say that.
Yeah.
And because it's so absurd, that's fascism. We're going to have a parade for it. Why? Then it was like, don't you know tanks actually destroy streets? Which is why they're tanks. This is why they're weapons of war, not for your... look good.
Yeah, they talked about that the parade would have did so much damage that they had to repair to the streets. And so he threw his little pity party. Right. He's like, fuck this, I can't have my own parade here. I'm going to France where they do parades there. I can go to their parade. So what, Veterans Day, our president who supports the troops to the points that he calls all these NFL players sons of bitches for kneeling during the national anthem. That president is going to bounce on this country to France where there's a parade.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that's where it's happening at.
Okay. Can they not see through? They not see the emperor has no clothes? Are we not seeing it?
I mean, he has shown continuously he doesn't give a fuck about this country. He's just a walking soundboard of like things that he's just catchphrases, slogans. He even brands people he doesn't like. Get no names. Low energy Jeb. My favorite. It's funny.
It is funny. That's why it's funny. I can't even come up with a response to it. I don't even know what to say.
He's an adult man giving people nicknames that he doesn't like.
Just because he can't remember. Because part of Omarosa's claim is that he's unhinged and losing it or something. And it's quite clear that when you listen to him and he's saying the same things over.
Wacky Omarosa?
Amongst other things. Like, you can tell, like, there's not much there. There really isn't. And I'm beyond scared for our country, the fact that he's in charge. Just like, at this point, I don't even...
I'm listening to you bring up valid points about why we should be afraid of him being president and what he's doing to this country. But at the same time, I'm struggling to get past, in my mind, the fact that a grown-ass man calls another adult wacky. and the ideal of it. Wacky. Who the fuck uses wacky? Little Marco?
Lion Ted.
Who's all with him now?
Right? Because, like, dude, so hey.
You can't say someone's incompetent.
Beto for Texas.
Incapable of being the president, and then when they become president, be like, yeah, I'm a guy for him.
I mean, Texas, if they vote for him, if he gets elected again, or reelected, I guess is what happens when you get elected again. That's going to be, I don't know, I'm going to leave Texas at that point. Because that's going to be ridiculous. Even like Republicans don't. He's stupid. No one likes him. People don't like him.
Yeah.
In general, like all across the aisle.
If every Republican was as childish as our president is, or your president, or whoever's president.
Is that your president?
Because basically, if every Republican was as childish as him, I imagine Ted Cruz get his lunch money taken.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
He does. He's so slimy. He's so swarmy. Like he doesn't have a position. He just will fit into wherever. And oh my God. Oh, I don't like people like that.
All right. So let's talk about some of the projects we have coming up before we go. You mentioned the true crime podcast.
Yes. Woke and Magic True Crime. So we are going to take a look at some crimes that have happened and also talk about the political and social and cultural context that those crimes occurred in.
I want to expand our podcast because we usually do it just once a week, and I kind of want to do more than just once a week. So we're going to expand and have multiple shows. We're going to have just our base show, or like our main show, Woke and Magic, and you're going to have your own show where you talk about true crime, and I'm going to have a show which I talk about more of nerd culture stuff and stuff that's happening in nerd culture right now as it relates to people of color. So we're going to have like our own different thing, and we're going to have more podcasts and more episodes to give you guys, because we love doing this. This is so fun.
Hashtag such fun. Such fun.
Such fun.
Such fun.
Hashtag Miranda. But you won't shut up about that goddamn show, Miranda. But yeah, I just want to give you guys an update of what's been going on with us. We're still planning to do the main show, but we want to add more episodes of different topics as well. But we really need to talk about Trump. We haven't had a chance to talk about Trump in a while. And I admit that I've kind of distanced myself from politics a little, because you gotta take a break. I mean, it was like almost every day. What the fuck is he doing? What the fuck is he saying? How is it affecting us? And it's constantly like every day we're dealing with that. And to a point, it gets so ridiculous that you have to turn it off.
Right. I mean, it's definitely, if you were to consume it 24/7, it would be just so destructive, I believe, because I believe what he and his ilk are doing is destructive. And so you do have to have those balance. And I think that, talking about it is important. I don't think we should ignore it, because then it allows it to grow and become worse. Like, this needs to stop. And so I think we're seeing if the 2018 elections are going to help with that, or things like that. But it's definitely important to just know that as citizens, we need to take much more of an active role, like in our society, and like what we want and things. And I think this is forcing us to have to do so. So this is all very new for us. But if you need a break and take a break from it, take a break from it. It doesn't mean that you don't hold your same beliefs and values. It just means that you got to make sure that you're strong enough to deal with the bullshit they keep throwing at us, because they keep throwing it at us. And so do what you got to do, but don't. If you got to take a break, take a break. But come back little by little, listen to a podcast every now and then.
Probably this podcast.
Maybe.
Gotta give yourself a break from every once in a while, and not overwhelm yourself with this stupidity that we deal with on a constant daily basis. And wonder if the president of the United States has used the N-word before or not. Oh God, or seeing that the press secretary cannot confirm or deny if he's used the N-word. She can't say, well, I want to rule anything out. That's what she's basically said on set. Like on stage, is I don't want to rule anything out, basically. We're at that point. All this negativity, we need to get away from it sometimes, and sometimes it's good to just turn your brain off and just enjoy your life while we still have it before the fucking nukes come. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Woke and Magic. Also, we have a YouTube channel if you want to check that out as well.
Woke and Magic podcast. Right.
Yep.
Oh, and don't forget to email us, wokeandmagic, all together, all letters, at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Give us some feedback, ask us some questions, or just tell us how we're doing.
And of course, if you send us questions, we're going to answer those questions on the podcast itself. So you will get them answered. All right, I'm Jim.
And I'm Marika.
You guys take care.